Hi everyone! You've made it through week one, part one, and this is our recap of what you learned. Just kind of a little information at the end of each part of the week, I will do a recap video, and it usually has important information for you to watch. If you're short on time, you can read it because it is working right off this, but honestly, if you can listen to it, I do expand on what's written here. So the first thing I wanted to touch on is the routine. Congratulations on completing the first task of the semester. These are always the hardest, jumping into a new course because we're not face-to-face. It is confusing. It's confusing on my part too. And I honestly designed this course to be very interactive, and that sometimes confuses members because it's different from other online courses. But the routine that we had for this part of the week is actually the way it should continue for most of the semester. I'll always give you the video intro for the week, then you'll have your presentation and it will have participation. There's two forms of participation. One will be online and it will consist of mostly the Padlet boards, and then sometimes we'll do a couple other things online for participation. You'll also sometimes have a Dropbox for participation. If I have you write out anything or do a sort and take a picture of something, that Dropbox will also be presentation participation points. I am marking your participation points at the end of the week in the grade book, so feel free to check that grade book often. I am importing grades in right away. The participation within your presentations is worth 5 points each week. And then when you start week 2, you'll have a weekly literature sharing activity, and that will be worth 5 other participation points. That will be 50 points for the presentation participation, 50 points for your literature sharing, which is coming next part of week 1. And that gives us our 100 points of participation for the semester that you see listed on the syllabus. So you're doing what you did this week will grow a little bit in participation point, not in points, I'm sorry. What you did this week will happen every week, but there'll be a little bit more active participation in the upcoming presentations. At the end of your presentation, the last slide will give you assignments. So if you're ever concerned as to what do I do, it's always on your last slide. It will always be that reflective journal. It will always be your weekly literature sharing that's coming in part 2 of week 1. And it will be, I'll always tell you, you should have 2 Padlet boards, you should have 1 of this. I list exactly what you need for your points. So that last slide should be real clear to you. And then I'll always give you this weekly video recap for each part of our week. So you should come back here and kind of review what you learned or get any information of something that I may have saw I needed clarifying for you, because sometimes I see you do something and I think, I don't really like the way they did that. I want to make sure they understand the material a little bit better. But great job. Everyone was on target this week, and this should become routine for you. Moving on to the calendar. I know the dates were funky on the calendar, and I apologize for that. This is my first semester using the calendar, and I put all our dates in, but didn't realize how they would show up to you. So I think I fixed the calendar dates. That should be right what you need to keep you on track. The biggest thing is watch for those project due dates. Everything else kind of will become routine. You won't need to see that so much on the calendar for the weekly information, but look for those due dates. Moving on to your online participation, you had that Padlet board this week, and you did a great job on your answers. We are going to use Padlet a lot because it is interactive and it is collaborative. And so here's some of the answers that I consistently saw in your boards. First of all, most of you will want to have a mostly student-centered literacy classroom. Some of you said you'd blend it with teacher-centered, but most of you want that student-centered classroom. Most of you have seen the Basel readers in classrooms. You've seen guided reading. You've watched literature circles, and also a little bit of reading and writing workshop time. We will expand on each one of those subjects over the course of this semester. So if you're not sure exactly how they work, I will give you all the information you ever will want. Many of you also remember learning to read. And a lot of you had that more teacher-centered approach where you used phonics, workbooks, and basal readers. Those things aren't bad, but again, it has a different approach. All of our approaches to teaching reading that were discussed in the presentation this week will get you a reader. You have to find the approach that matches your student the best, and that means having an arsenal of knowledge to meeting their individual needs. Just a reminder, when you put a Padlet board together, when you participate in your Padlet, please make sure your name is on the board. A lot of you had great answers, and most of you had your names on, but a few of you did not. If you're not sure, just pop back over to Padlet and make sure your name is there. For a few of you, it's kind of hidden under the next person's post, but I did get all those. Your participation points are in. But a few of you did omit your name. And the neat thing is, to Padlet, you can go back in. There's a little edit button in the top right corner. I believe it's a pencil. And you can add your name to it if you need to. The last thing I wanted to really tune in and give you some feedback on is working ahead. A few of you wondered two things. First of all, why are the folders labeled Week 1 Part 1, Week 1 Part 2? And some of you found that confusing. This is my first time teaching 270 as a 7-week course. I've always taught it as a full semester. And each of our topics are different. They do build upon each other, but the first part of the week and the second part of the week will be completely different. And there's so many things that I like to put into our presentations that I found if I didn't separate the weeks, I thought it would be too much information just to put into Week 1's folder. So I hope it doesn't confuse you, but each week, each part of the week will be different, and you really want to keep on track with those dates. So Monday through Thursday is the first part of the week. Friday through the weekend to Sunday night is the second part of the week. If you can stick close to that, that's great. But because that's kind of rigid, and that's the way this 7-week course is, many of you ask about working ahead, and this is my recommendation. If you want to work through the week, you want to do Week 1, Part 1, and then maybe it's Wednesday, you want to move into Part 2, I will have that completely ready for you. But if you are at the end of Week 1, Part 1, and you do Week 1, Part 2, and you want to move into Week 2, please email me first. I have everything ready to go for the entire semester, but I am constantly making changes and tweaking, and with the 7-week course, I'm trying to modify your presentations, take out the busy work, and make sure that I'm covering the content that is most important, because this condensed course is going to be hard. So don't jump ahead into a new week without telling me. So if you want to work Week 1, Part 1, Week 1, Part 2, great. If we're in Week 3 and you want to do Part 1 and Part 2 of Week 3, you should be fine. But don't work into a new week without checking with me first, because I want to make sure that you're doing it when it's ready for you. If you have any questions on that, just send me a message. And that's kind of how I want to end this. Your feedback is so valuable to me. As an instructor, I'm designing this course for you, not for myself. I hold myself to very high standards, and if it's not working for you, then I haven't done my job. So please, I had a lot of questions this week getting started, and I thought I was being clear in some things and I was not, and I don't know that if you don't tell me. So anything that you can suggest, sometimes I can make the changes, sometimes I'll give you a reason why I've done it this way, and we'll see what works best. But please, if you're confused about anything, definitely reach out to me. And also, any suggestions you can give, I definitely want to make this course meaningful for you. So have a good Week 1, Part 2. I think the snow is coming, so unfortunately, you'll be stuck inside, but you can get your work done and stay warm.